This is interesting. So, everybody knows I was tough on Baker Mayfield, but I've said he's a very nice guy. There was the incident in Manhattan Beach. He was with his wife, and there was a really strange incident, and he was a really nice guy. I think he's a really nice guy. I thought he was too cocky coming out of college. I told you I thought Sam Darnold was better. I think we all know today Sam Darnold's really good. So is Baker. But we forget this. Even at quarterback, it's a value proposition. Okay, the last four highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL, 4 straight years, have missed the playoffs. Okay, so I saw a story today as Baker is due a new contract. Okay, what makes Baker so appealing now is not his size, he's 6'1", or his athleticism, or his resume, 1 playoff win. What makes Baker Mayfield appealing is $33 million for a above average NFL quarterback. That's appealing. Baker Mayfield at 48 is not appealing to me. Give me a 6-pack of Diet Coke for $5. That's appealing. You charge me 28, I'm buying a bottle of Prosecco. Okay, $33 million for Baker. I think that is one of the better deals in the league. Sam Darnold for 35, maybe the best deal in the league, because I think he's a bigger, stronger, more athletic Baker. But you start talking new contract. I mean, it's $5 footlong at Subway. I ate a lot of those. $13, I'll pass. Right? So we think you got to get value on everybody except the quarterback. No, Josh Allen at $60 million has no Pro Bowlers on defense, and Mahomes near $60 million has no run game, and they're getting really old, and they had to get rid of Trent McDuffie. So, Baker Mayfield last year was not bad, but he's a little coordinator dependent. Josh Allen's good regardless of coordinator. Mahomes is good regardless of coordinator. I think Justin Herbert is good. Joe Burrow is good regardless of coordinator. Baker Mayfield was much better with Liam Cohen and Dave Canales than last year. He's a little coordinator reliant. Now, we've said this about Nick Sirianni. And I don't like this at all. When a head coach is coordinator dependent, get a new head coach. You don't have to get rid of your quarterback. I think Jalen Hurts is another guy. Jalen Hurts is very reliant on who's the coordinator.
Okay. Oh, man. Baker Mayfield and Jalen Hurts fans unite right now, baby. You guys love battling each other. At least in this comment section. Oh man, I want to take this video so many different places. This is going to be a Baker Mayfield video. This is going to be a Tampa Bay Bucs video, but I may have to make another video about Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles because there's okay. And talking about coordinators dependent for coaches, Colin literally just said that it's great now to have coaches not call plays, which would then therefore because he talked about that with Sean Payton. He goes, I think coaches don't want to call plays. And Harbaugh is coordinator dependent. That's why he had to go get Mike McDaniel. Oh my God. Sean Payton now is no longer calling plays. It's a different conversation. It's a different conversation. First of all, how can we say that Mahomes isn't coordinator dependent? He's had Andy Reid. For those of you who don't know, when your head coach is Andy Reid, your coordinator doesn't really matter that much. Okay, just so we're very clear about that because Mahomes had multiple coordinators. Sure. Whatever you say. Also, if you want to then say that coordinators matter, which is kind of funny because Kansas City Chiefs fans are now saying, oh, we got the enemies now here. The offense is going to be so much better now that he's back. Oh, so then Patrick Mahomes is coordinator dependent because he hasn't looked very good in 23, 24, 25. His stats haven't been very good. His play has been literally going down. I'm just saying you got to be clear about how you view the NFL, how you view the reality. So yeah, I think all quarterbacks are fundamentally coordinator dependent, okay, and roster dependent, but it is a spectrum. There are other quarterbacks that are going to be more resilient. I do not think Lamar Jackson is a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. I don't think that at all. No matter who the coach is. No matter who the coach is. Andy McVay, whatever. Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback, but I believe that Lamar Jackson is probably arguably the most resilient quarterback in terms of quality of roster and coaching staff. I'm always on the fence between Josh Allen or Lamar in that moment because I just think of Lamar's pure speed and athleticism offers him a resiliency that will allow him to do more with less. But I think Josh Allen is a better quarterback than Lamar, you know. So that's why I'm saying like this is where I always say multiple things can be true and you have to understand what lens are you looking at something through. And so that's why I kind of take issue when we're just like, oh, so and so is his coordinator dependent or he needs this that and it's just like people are talking about Josh Allen like you know and then credit to Con because he's like yeah Josh Allen got 60 million and now the roster isn't as good and yeah and now Josh Allen's passing game hasn't been as good and that's a problem. Patrick Mahomes' O-line isn't good and they're like well that's why he's not good. So like all of these guys need these things. They all need coaches. They all need an O-line, whatever it may be. But there is a spectrum here. There is a spectrum and so a Baker Mayfield is definitely going to be on that lower end of that spectrum. Also, Colin, I think he said he only has one win. Pretty sure he's got multiple. I believe he beat the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that's it. And listen, I've downplayed those wins and I got great videos unpacking those wins and those numbers. I only did it because Nick Ray came out and said that Baker Mayfield's one of the greatest playoff performers of all time. And I was like, okay, well, you know, you're backing me into a corner now. Now I got to make this video. It's not my fault. But I'm pretty sure that's just 2 wins. I think he's only played in 4 playoff games because. Then, I think I forget honestly, but it's something around there. But yes, so I do think the value in Baker Mayfield, his superpower is how much you're paying him in this moment of time. And I think it's such an interesting and fascinating thought-provoking question of if you can get a quarterback of like a Baker's level, a Daniel Jones, etc., and you can get them for like the for the contract that Baker got. Are you better off with that than a Josh Allen for 60 million? And it's so hard because the answer is both yes and no. The answer is both yes and no. I was so excited to see Daniel Jones do what he was able to do with Shane Steichen. I was really excited and I am such a coach-forward person. I believe in coaching. So much. I was one of the loudest voices that said, I think Liam Cohen leaving Baker, you're going to see a change. And then I actually got convinced in the contrary by big Baker fans and big Bucs fans and they were like, no. The coordinator that we have right now, he's called all the 3rd and 4th downs. He's going to be great, etc., etc. And I was kind of like, alright. There's a couple people who I trust their football views even if they can be, a little bit more biased towards the Bucs. I'm like, okay. And it kind of pushed me over to the 2 to kind of maybe supporting that more. But the reality is with a quarterback of a Daniel Jones that we saw more specifically with Shane Steichen, there's moments in games when you need that quarterback to elevate and get it done. And this was highlighted so much against the Chiefs, which is regardless how good of that team that was, they're really well coached. They had a great defense. Their offense was a mess, but their defense was still good enough, great enough. I'll say Spags is obviously a genius at defense. And Shane Steichen schemed up a handful of plays that you're just like, this is a masterpiece. This is a master. Like, this is perfection. And you're like, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to lose because of Shane Steichen and the Colts are going to win because of Shane Steichen. But a coach can also only do so much. And then so there was moments in that game down the stretch when you're just like you just need Daniel Jones to make the right decision to make the right play. Now to be fair, some of those masterclass schemes that Shane Steichen did and in just the perfect play call at the perfect time. Daniel Jones did need to execute. Daniel Jones, I forget exactly when, but he made a beautiful play to their tight end. I think it was their tight end to a beautiful throw where you're like that's an amazing throw. An amazing play call, an amazing play design. Timing was perfect, but also Daniel Jones deserves some credit too as well. But when there's other moments throughout the course of that game when you need that Daniel Jones to get it done, make that play, I saw him unable to. I saw it not happening and you're just like, bro, you just need to complete this 5-yard pass to convert the first down. And it's like the chances of you winning this game are going to now go through the roof. It just changes everything. And he couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. So, it's like on one side there's tremendous value and you legitimately can win and win and win and win when you have a quarterback at a lower level that you're not paying as much money, you have a great coach, great roster, an elite defense, etc., etc., etc. But we know, especially in playoffs, there's moments in games where you have to get after it. And we can now look at even a Sam Darnold and say that even if during the regular season you want to say, well, this roster is so great, the defense, etc., etc., etc. So, he was only so special. He was only such a contributor, right? They didn't need a great quarterback to win or so. It's fine. But there were moments throughout that season, especially against the Rams, the second game against the Rams where, when with the overtime and that chaos, Sam Darnold made some throws and some plays that you were just like, this is legitimately elite. And then the NFC Championship game was genuinely absolute elite quarterback play, right? They need elite quarterback play from him in the Super Bowl, in the divisional round, right? No, not at all. But when push comes to shove, he still got after it and took care of it when it needed most. So, he was kind of this hybrid where it's just okay, maybe he was good and maybe he might only be a good quarterback and not an elite quarterback, but he can clearly tap into some elite moments. And that really, really matters. That matters tremendously. And so you can't just put all these quarterbacks in a bucket of always with the whole because I do this where it's elite, great, and good. And I've talked about this a lot where it's you can have a good quarterback who taps into great or taps into elite, but at what rate does he do that? Dak Prescott absolutely has elite moments. I do not think Dak Prescott is an elite quarterback. If you need him to, he can maybe be elite 2 out of 10 whereas a Mahomes is 6 out of 10, 7, because even a Mahomes is an elite, 10 out of 10. Neither is Lamar, neither is Josh, etc., etc. And so Baker absolutely has his moments when you're just this is a great quarterback doing great things. This is even an elite throw. This is an elite run, and I don't mean run as in legs, run as in stretch of, plays, games, drives, whatever. And so if you now have to start to pay him $55 million, $60 million, whatever the contract floor is going to start to become, or what the general range will be, that changes everything. That changes everything. A Josh Allen can overcome that more. Patrick Mahomes can too, but he's struggling. He has absolutely struggled last year to overcome any of the issues that a roster potentially could have. And it's important to focus on and look at to be like Mahomes. Mahomes is in his prime. He's in his absolute prime as a quarterback. He's got great coach. His defense was good enough and yet he was not good enough in these moments. That's just the reality, and you have to understand that because when you look at when you recognize that and acknowledge that you realize well if Mahomes is struggling in this moment why would I expect any of these other and that's what I had said about Mahomes when once everyone started to get really all on the whole offensive line thing the Eagles have the best O-line and the Bills have a great O-line and Patrick Mahomes doesn't blah 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 and it's just well, if Mahomes can't overcome a bad O-line, why would any quarterback? But also, since Mahomes is so great, since Mahomes is so special, since you say that Mahomes can carry and he's the best quarterback in the history of the world, well, I expect him to do more than in less than ideal circumstances than Jared Goff. I'm not, 'cause sometimes people will say, why do you hold Patrick Mahomes to a higher standard than Jared Goff? And it's just like, because what are you talking about? We should never hold Patrick Mahomes and Jared Goff to the same standard. They're like, one is supposed to be an all-time great while the other isn't. If we held them to the exact same standard, well then that doesn't really actually make sense. You're holding these quarterbacks to a GOAT standard. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, they get held to different standards. If we're going to talk to you as being truly an all-time great, well then you got to show it. You got to show that level of resiliency. And so that's why I'm not going to lump that standard on a Baker Mayfield. I'm not expecting Baker to be able to do things necessarily that Mahomes or Josh Allen can. But that is part of the huge problem with the conversations around a Baker Mayfield. And this is what's said before, and I love it because he said, stop treating Baker like he's Josh Allen. He's not. And he's not. Just because Baker can do some really great things at times and can show some fight and some oomph, doesn't mean that he's at that level, because he's simply not. And now if you pay him even more money and the roster takes a step back, or it's just harder to build a great roster, we already see how hard it is for Josh Allen, Mahomes, etc. Where do you think it's going to land for a Baker Mayfield? And this is the beauty of the NFL, and we've been talking a lot about this recently, because it's obviously free agency and the off-season, so you're making deals and people have to make tough decisions, and it's the best thing the NFL has going for them. They're forced to genuinely make brutally difficult situations, and it's awesome. It's what consistently makes the NFL competitive, that the Seahawks win the Super Bowl and they can't just keep everyone. They literally have to let players go from their Super Bowl-winning roster. That's amazing. That's what consistently makes the NFL so competitive, because pretty much any other sport is able to just run that back no problem. They're able to keep the core. I mean, how many basketball teams have we seen win a championship with their main 3 guys or their 4 guys? How many times do they have to get rid? Literally you have the Chiefs having to move on from Tyreek Hill. The Seahawks have to move on from Kenneth Walker, their number 1 back. They're forced to make decisions immediately. Sure, some of these teams have to give up their 4th or 5th player at times. Maybe their 6th, 7th, 8th or something, but it's just like in the NFL, it's oh, this defense was elite. Oh, this player had 9 sacks, 10 sacks, and you can't keep them. That's what makes the NFL so awesome. So, baseball, they can just keep paying for everyone. In football, you can't. And so, you're forced to have these types of conversations around Baker Mayfield. And so, he 1000% should not be paid like a top-tier quarterback. And if you are a huge Baker fan and a huge Bucs fan, you should not want him to get paid like a top-tier quarterback. It won't be great. And yeah, you already saw what things looked like in a less than ideal situation last season. It wasn't great. Baker was up and down and he didn't make the playoffs. And don't tell me all injuries. Baker played essentially the exact same way all throughout. The difference is that you couldn't take advantage of the other team's ineptitudes as much. Teams like the Atlanta Falcons and Baker. And this is what I pointed out, and a lot of people got mad at me. He was getting away with some really bad decisions and some really bad throws. But he was getting away with them. And I kept saying turnover-worthy plays. And people said, oh, that's so dumb. I'm like, guys, a turnover-worthy play is a legitimate thing to look at. That's what coaches are going. No coach is going to see a quarterback make a bad throw that should have been intercepted, have it not be intercepted. And a coach is just going to be like, well, it wasn't intercepted. No reason to talk about it. Congrats. It was a victory. It's not how coaching works. They say, buddy, this was a terrible throw. This was a terrible decision. What were you thinking? Why did you do that? You can't do that. We would have lost if this guy caught it. In fact, the defensive coordinator is looking at film with him right now saying, how the heck did you not intercept that? We can't have that. You know, and so it's just like in the beginning of the season, he was getting away with all of that. As the season unfolded, he was not getting away with those plays. And it all caught up. That's something to also keep in mind. So, but yeah. I think I've been very fair, Baker Mayfield. People always sometimes like, oh, you troll. You troll. Like I didn't troll Baker once here. In fact, I think I defended him and spoke positively about him because I easily could have a take and be like, yeah, he's coordinator dependent. He's this that and I'm like every quarterback is, but it is a spectrum and Baker's not at the bottom end of that spectrum. He's certainly not at the high end of that spectrum either. He's probably right in the middle. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Baker Mayfield? Do you think he should get paid like a top-tier quarterback? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. So, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build stuff that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. So, it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much.